Welcome back to the Point of Attack. I'm your host, Pranav Sriraman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Thomas Stapleton. Thomas, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I absolutely love the topic we are talking about today. So I'm very, very excited for this episode. It's been a little bit, so I'm pumped.
As am I. Both of us are extremely excited for this topic, and we're glad that we have a great reason to talk about this topic. But before we get into our topic today, make sure to subscribe to the TWSN YouTube channel for the best sports content around. But with that being said, Thomas, today's topic is about the Oklahoma City Thunder, our Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, they're red hot right now. I mean, since the new year started, they've played 9 games. They're 7-2. They're top 3 in offense. They're top 4 in defense, and they're the best team in the NBA in net rating since the new year started. So I wanted to ask you, how good is this Oklahoma City Thunder team? Should we buy what we're seeing in the new year, and what do you really see as their ceiling for this year?
I mean, I think to a certain extent, we should definitely buy what OKC is doing because I think everything they're doing is completely sustainable. They're one of the best defenses in the league, despite not really having a true five. Like they kind of just like run a rotation of sometimes they'll have Jeremiah Robinson Earl as their small ball center, or they've been playing a lot of Jalen Williams, Poku at the five, Mike Muscala. So the fact that they have this good of a defense, and obviously they're I think you said third since the new year, but just in general throughout the entirety of the season, Oklahoma City has been one of the best defenses in the league. And considering the rim protection they're working with, that is extremely impressive. And it's real scary to think that they're adding one of the best rim protection prospects in years as soon as next season. But they're one of the best defenses in the league already. And now they have a legit superstar creator in Shea, who has been very good since the new year, but it's not like we are relying on Shea to win games and he's scoring 35 and 40 points and dragging us. Like, that hasn't really been the case at all. I mean, he's been playing very well, but it's nothing like nothing out of the ordinary for him because he's been unbelievably good this season. But I think the biggest emergence we've seen since the new year is the play of Josh Giddey. He's been unbelievable scoring the basketball. He has improved so much as a driver, as a shooter. On the season, he is shooting just 1% worse than Jason Tatum, which is pretty unbelievable to think about. He's scoring more efficiently. He's being more aggressive. His passing is good as always. He's been a legit offensive creator for this team. He's just been unbelievable all around. Shea, obviously, we talked about. Poku's kind of hurt right now, but he's even kind of started to turn the corner this season. And then you've got a bunch of guys on the bench who are also really contributing. Isaiah Joe, who I can't believe the Philadelphia 76ers just let go for free, has turned into a revelation for the Thunder. I mean, he's only playing 14 minutes a night, averaging 8 points per game and shooting 44% from three. I mean, he scored 23 points last night and went 7 of 12 from three. There are just a lot of guys on this team who compete on both ends of the floor and bring such specific skill sets to the team. You know, you have Isaiah Joe and his shooting. Aaron Wiggins is one of the better off-ball players in all of basketball, one of the best cutters. Speaking of great cutters, Jalen Williams has been terrific as a rookie.
Josh Giddey as well.
Yeah, Josh Giddey's a great cutter. I think all the kind of concerns about the fit between him and Shea are kind of evaporating because he's proven to be one of the best cutters, and the shot is starting to come around. So, I mean, I'm not going to say everything, but this team has been unbelievably good.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the intro. I mean, top 3 in offense, top 4 in defense, and the best team in net rating since the new year started. You could say small sample size. That's more than understandable. Are they this historic juggernaut? Absolutely not. But they are no fluke in regards to how successful they are. And they're generating success in a way that, like you said, they're not really dependent on Shea to bail them out of situations like they were earlier this year. They are generating so many open shots. I mean, in their game against the Pacers, they set the franchise record for most assists in a game with 41. I mean, they're just playing unselfish team basketball, always making the extra pass, finding open cutters. I mean, I talked about Josh Giddey improving as a cutter and becoming probably an elite off-ball player at this point with both his catch and shoot ability. Shout out Chip Engelland. I think his hire has been just an absolute slam dunk, home run, whatever you want to call it. The hire of Chip Engelland, what he's done for this team, particularly Josh Giddey from the shooting standpoint, cannot be overstated. I mean, you're looking at it right now. The Thunder in the new year are a top 5 shooting team. They're shooting 40% from beyond the arc. And a lot of that has to do with the open shots that they're generating, but also with the just overall improvement by everyone on the team and as a shooter. I mean, the biggest concern with this team over the past couple of years was the spacing. They're clogging up lanes for SGA, but now it feels like they could throw out lineups out there that can actually have everyone being a capable shooter. And that just goes to the testament of the player development of this franchise. Um, but speaking about their current success, I did ask you about the ceiling for this team, and I'm gonna go as far as to say in this Western Conference, they don't necessarily have to be a play-in team. Like this Western Conference is so tight to the point where maybe they're not as better than some of the teams that are going to be in the plan, but they could hit that 6th seed. I think that's very possible at this point in time, given the way they're playing right now. Given the fact that even on defense, they're a top 5 unit in the new year, top 10 overall. And even without a true rim protector, that just goes to show that they have a plethora of different guys that they're maximizing the most out of on that end with their scramble technique. And so that really goes to Mark Dagnall as a coach as well, a defensive minded coach. The job he's done with this franchise over the years, because even last season, before everyone started to get shut down, we saw these similar defensive standings, and you're seeing it once again being replicated. And I think that having the personnel with a bunch of athletic, long guys who are smart both on and off the ball can make you not an elite defense. I wouldn't consider them an elite defense overall this season yet due to their rim defense. It's just something that you got to have, but a very strong defense because of his scheme.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're only a half a game back from Golden State, who's the 6th seed, a game and a half back from Dallas, who's the 5 seed. Like there just aren't a lot of teams that are really gelling. Like the 2 teams in front of them right now are the Clippers and the Jazz, and those are 2 teams I can very easily see slipping behind the Thunder.
And they have the tiebreaker over the Clippers as well.
Exactly. They have the same record as the Clippers. They're a half a game back from the Jazz. I really think that this is a team that can not only. I think I'll say it right now. I think they're going to make the playoffs. Whether it's through the play-in, like winning a play-in, I would not want to see them in a play-in game because this team. Right. Say what you want about the overall talent on the team, but this team competes each and every single night. They are going to put up fights against every team in the league, whether they're good, whether they're bad. It's always going to be a competitive game. Like you can never walk over the Thunder. They are going to go out there and play their butts off every single night. And I think that's what's been really most impressive to see is that, every single one of these guys has been bought in on both ends of the floor. I think before the season, a lot of people were, complaining about the Thunder, calling them the eyesore of the NBA.
The black eye of the league.
The black eye of the league. Like, all these people were saying this and how we were going to tank for Victor Wembanyama. And it could have been easy for these guys to just be like, all right, we'll kind of, just get a bunch of player development and not really focus on winning because we want to get the ultimate goal of landing one of the top picks. But no, this group has come out here. They've competed on the defensive end of the floor. I think it's a real credit to the coaching. Like you said, Mark Dagnall is a defensive-minded coach, and I think he has really done a great job getting all of these guys to buy in on the defensive end of the floor. And I think that's where it all starts. And when you have two really elite creators at this point in time, elite offensive creators surrounded by a lot of shooting. Like you talked about it earlier, this team is shooting the ball a lot better. Dort, 35%, Poku, 38%, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, 38%, Kenrich Williams, 44%, Isaiah Joe, 44%, Aaron Wiggins, 38%. Just a lot of guys.
40% in the new year too.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of guys who can knock down open threes. And that's really all you need when you have 2 guys who are able to get to the rim and bend defenses. it's just I really do think that they can be the 6th seed, and at the very worst, I think they could be the 7th seed and then win the first play-in game. And guess what? They're gonna put up a fight against whoever they face.
That's
like,
that's the thing about this team. Like I'm not gonna predict them to win a playoff series yet, but I know the team they're going to face is going to be in hell going up against them. I mean, you're playing a defense that is tough-minded, that is going to absolutely suffocate your perimeter stars offensively, and then offensively, I mean, they're not an elite unit. I wouldn't say they're an elite unit on either end of the ball, but the way they are shooting, the way they're generating open shots, mainly, I mean, the process is what you're really looking for, and their process can lead to them winning some playoff games this year. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, this team feels like, I feel like every year in the playoffs, there's like one team who like wins the first game of the playoff series, and then throughout the series, even though they lose, they just continue to fight game in and game out, and they're going to show you that, you know, this is not going to, you're not going to be able to walk all over us. Like it's not going to happen. A team that I don't think they're nearly as talented as last year's Minnesota team, but Minnesota was the 7th seed and
they remind me more of the Pelicans last year.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, because the Timberwolves went to 7 games with the Grizzlies in the first round, despite being the 7th seed. The Pelicans, again, they put up a real fight against, I think it was Phoenix, right? Mm-hmm. This Oklahoma definitely has the ingredients to put that kind of season together, because they have a legit star who generates easy buckets and a bunch of good shooters and a good defense.
And you talked about it a bit earlier. One of your points that I want to hammer down is you said the Thunder are not going into this season thinking about just player development. Like, they could have easily gone into the season thinking about player development and getting a high pick. Instead, they're going to win games. I actually disagree. I think they're not selling out to win games. I think they are focused mainly on player development and just seeing where the process takes them. And right now, they're just winning by coincidence. Like, their player development is so successful to the point where they're actually winning games. Like, I don't think anyone, even us as fans, expected this product to be on display during the season. I mean, Josh Giddey, I thought he would never shoot like this, even at his best. And now you're seeing him becoming a 40% three-point shooter, a guy who is elite off the ball, both as a cutter, both on the wings. I mean, his catch and shoot ability has been one of the best in the league as of recently. And say what you want about the numbers being unsustainable, but the fact is he has improved massively on that area, and that goes for everyone else on the rest of the team as well. I mean, Jalen Williams isn't even shooting the ball particularly well this season. He was their 12th overall draft pick, and he's been one of the best cutters, a guy who can also handle the ball when he needs to, while also playing off of Shea, playing off of Giddey, being a play finisher at 6'6" with his long wingspan. I mean, he does it all as well. And the thing about it with the Thunder is people are like, well, you're going to get Chet Holmgren back. Just think about a team doing this and then having the number 2 overall pick. That way, it's like more of an optimistic approach. Like, yeah, this is a great team. They're one piece away. Maybe a guy who could protect the rim, take that defense from strong to very elite, and another guy who could space the floor very well, does a lot of things well offensively. Add that into the mix, and I really don't know where the ceiling is, because right now, I expected with a healthy Chet that this team might be pushing the play-in. They're pushing maybe further beyond that without him. So that really, in the long term, I really don't know how to evaluate the ceiling of this team, because they just seem to break it every time and go another step above.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Just talking about Jalen Williams, like his shot has not been falling. That's something I'm confident in going forward, but this season it just hasn't been falling whatsoever. But he has made up for it by being one of the best guard 2-point scorers in all of basketball. In fact, I don't even know if you know this. Currently, right now, he is just 0.3% back from having the highest 2-point percentage of all the guards in the league. Bradley Beal is currently in front. Yeah, he's an unbelievable finisher, terrific in the in-between area. He's another piece that I'm really excited to see going forward. I liked the pick at, I think it was either 11 or 12.
It was 12. He was right behind Ousmane Dieng, who is another player who hasn't even played yet this season. And granted, it might be a bit of a bump in the road when he gets back into the mix, but you'll take those lumps for the long-term result.
Absolutely. And like Williams was a guy that I liked in the pre-draft process. But even at number 12, I was like, are we sure? Now I'm wondering if that was too low. Like I think he's probably going to have a better career than a lot of the guys drafted in front of him. So I'm real excited to see how he fits in with this core as well, especially when the shot starts clicking, because I think he's going to be one of the best connectors in the entire league.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the finesse or flexibility or the deceleration of Shea, but a lot of his a lot of his dribble packages and a lot of the hesitation moves that he does, just like the slight movements and then the way to get past his defender, it reminds me a lot of Shea.
It
And
does. Yep.
especially when you factor in the length as well and the way he finishes at the rim, I think Jalen Williams, J Dub, actually is better at absorbing contact, like as a finisher than Shea. Shea's better at drawing fouls and getting to the line, but in terms of like getting through that and like just dunking it on someone, I think J Dub is actually a bit stronger. It's a completely like the comparison is not apples to apples, but you could see hints of it.
You see, definitely.
Yeah.
You definitely like. I didn't want to say it, but you definitely like. They're definitely like self-created drives I've seen from Jalen Williams this season where I'm like, that looks like Shea. That looks like that looks like a young Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're not saying he's going to become anything close to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're just saying that there are some similarities there, and I think he's already a more advanced off-ball player than Shea ever was.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of looked at him pre-draft as, oh, he's a high floor, low ceiling guy, and I factored in age too much into that. But I mean, the vertical athleticism and what he does as a ball handler, it's just some things you just can't. It's not easy to develop, and he already has those traits. So I think I was a bit too low on his ceiling, and I'm excited for what he could do moving forward because I think that very similar to that 3 guard rotation they ran in Shea's first year here with CP3 and Dennis Schroeder. I think they could run something similar to that, but like it's kind of enlarged with J Dub and Josh Giddey. But I want to ask another question because when you have such a talented young roster, there are going to be odd men out and guys who just fall out of place. And to me, that guy is Trey Mann. Unfortunately, I just don't think like I like Trey Mann. I like some of the things he can do on the basketball court. He's talented, but to me, is he going to be consistent enough as a shooter to provide consistent value on the court? Because outside of his shooting, which is very streaky, like he's not someone who's going to get past his first defender consistently. He's not someone who's going to finish at the rim very consistently. His entire game is predicated on can he make shots efficiently, and he's a bad defender as well. And the answer to that question currently is no, he can't make shots consistently. And that's why you see his minutes being sacrificed for a lot of the guys on the team. He's seeing the biggest cut out of everyone on the roster is because he can't consistently drill those shots. And so I think he's going to be the odd man out of this equation eventually. I just don't think that his play style at the current moment currently fits what the Thunder are trying to build. And given they already have so much personnel to kind of get over what he provides, like a guy like Isaiah Joe, who's not as talented of a ball handler as Trey, no means, but like in regards to shooting the ball and being an effective off-ball player and being effective on defense, he infinitely provides more value than Trey Mann at this point in time. And so to me, I think Trey Mann is kind of the odd man out of this talented young Thunder roster. He definitely has a future in this league. I'm not labeling him a bust or anything like that, but currently it just feels like he's kind of misplaced in this Thunder rotation. I want to ask you, who do you feel is the odd man out? Is it Trey Mann? And what do you think his future holds both in the league and in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the obvious answer, like besides Trey Mann, is Darius Bazley, but I think everyone kind of knows that because I don't know if he's actually very good just yet. But yeah, I think Trey Mann is the easiest answer. I really love Trey. Like I think he's the perfect like second draft guy. Like you pick him up on a cheaper deal or like you get him for cheap in a trade, and he's someone that really pops as a scorer. Because I think a lot of the reason he's had his struggles this year is just he can't hit threes anymore. He's going through a major shooting slump. And I think that's something I'm willing to bet on, like, not happening in the future. Because coming out of college, he was one of the best pull-up shooting prospects I've ever evaluated. He shot 40% on like 20% assisted threes. Like he was one of the best prospects I've ever seen at self-creating threes. And we've seen a lot of that in the league. We even saw it in his first season, where he was creating shots off the dribble, using his handle, using his flexibility. He has a nice step back. He's good in catch and shoot. He has a lot of really good traits of a really effective scorer. And we've seen a lot of flashes of stardom, but the fact that he's not putting it all together yet, and there are a lot of guys in that like 1, 2, 3 kind of position already for this team, I think he's going to fall out of favor. And I was going to mention Isaiah Joe if you didn't either, because that's the perfect example. Because Isaiah Joe is getting more minutes now because he's hitting his shots and he's been better on the defensive end of the floor, and he's the same position as Trey Mann. Who are you going to give the guy to? The guy shooting 31% from 3 or the guy shooting 44% from 3? The answer is obvious. You're going to give it to the 44% guy every single time, especially when he's better on defense. So as much as I like Trey Mann, I think he is the odd guy out. I'd love to see him on a team in need of some guard scoring, maybe like the Raptors. I'd love to see what he can do with the Raptors, getting a
San Antonio maybe.
Yeah, San Antonio, just like a good like ecosystem defensively, where he can really shine as a ball handler and pick and roll score. Because I do think he's going to be good. I just don't think it's going to be in OKC.
Yeah, and another thing, excuse me. Another thing is that, like, even with Trey Mann, like, I was going through what I evaluate as the Thunder future depth chart, and I didn't get to him until that third rotation. Even guys like Aaron Wiggins, I thought of before I got to Trey Mann being an immediate contributor within our rotation long term. And that's just like, this is a good player, don't get me wrong, but is he going to be maximized in Oklahoma City? Because I had the same questions about Josh Giddey, and he quickly turned it around, but I don't doubt Trey Mann can't turn it around. But what I'm saying is the room is starting to get crowded in that backcourt. And right now I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, the NBA is a very impatient league. It's not necessarily a fault, but it's just like,
what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of guys are outproducing Trey Mann right now. That's just a reality. Like Aaron Wiggins, you mentioned Aaron Wiggins is a better fit for this roster because he's bigger, better defensively, hitting more of his 3-point shots, is more of a seamless fit as a role player. That's, I think, the big thing is that Trey Mann is like a guy that needs the ball to be effective, and needs to kind of have like a high dosage of shots and touches and pick and rolls to maximize his ceiling. You don't need that for a guy like Aaron Wiggins, because Aaron Wiggins is a good spot-up shooter, knows when to attack closeouts, knows when to cut. He has a lot of good senses for that, so he's been more valuable for this team. But you have someone like Trey Mann, who is just is not the off-ball player he is, not the defender he is, currently not the shooter he is. It's gonna be harder. So I think role is probably the biggest issue. Why? Because if Trey Mann was just like had like Isaiah Joe's skill set, but was this young, I think some guys would be willing to wait, because it's like, all right, he's still young. Maybe it was just a bad season. He had a really promising first year. That's fine. But with his specific skill set, I just don't think it fits with this team long term.
Yeah, and the saying has always been you can't draft all of these draft picks. You have to package them. And I think Trey Mann is the ideal young player you package along with those picks, because he is enticing. There's a lot you can get out of him. But I think that for OKC right now, he would be the young player they move on from. But I have one more question for you before we get out of here. And that is, currently and for long term, where do you rank OKC's future amongst the rest of the league? Because obviously they have all the draft picks, they have all the young talent, but other teams also have high-end young talent and probably more proven young talent. Let's say the Celtics, although would you consider Tatum and Brown young at this point?
No, I would not.
They've arrived.
They're too good. Yeah.
Would you consider the Cavs young at this point? I wouldn't. I mean, Mitchell's in year 5, Garland's in year 4. Yeah, year 4. I mean, I would not consider, and Mitchell's in year 6, my bad. But
yeah.
And like Mobley's the only real young guy on that team. I wouldn't consider them a young core. maybe the Grizzlies I would consider
Yeah.
them for.
I
And then the
I was
Pelicans, yeah.
I was gonna say the Grizzlies. I think that's the only real team that rivals them, and I think Grizzlies are pretty clear ahead, just because they have three guys that I think are pretty clearly proven stars.
Right.
The Thunder have like
One and
one
a half.
and 3/4.
Yeah.
1.5, 1 3/4. I think Giddey's gonna get there. He's just not there
Right.
yet.
And I think Chet's going to get there too, even though he hasn't played in the NBA. I think he is going to be a star. Everything indicates that he's going to be a star, but we just can't put it in stone yet, like some of
Right.
these other teams have. What would you say about New Orleans, though?
I mean, their young core is I don't think
It's
like
mainly just Zion and Ingram.
it's like Zion and
Ingram is in year 7. He's not young.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, he is only like 24, which is
Yeah,
pretty crazy. 24, 25. So it's like, but like their thing is like Zion is obviously like here, and then it's like Trey Murphy,
yeah,
and then Herb Jones, and then it's like everyone else because they're all just like.
Is Kyle Lewis still on the team? I know he gets no clock, but yeah.
Yeah, he's actually been getting some minutes now because he tore his ACL. He's another second draft guy that I like, but can we really include him as part of the young core?
He's not like there's like Thunder have like 5 guards better than Kyle Lewis at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think Grizzlies are the only team. I think the Rockets will be okay in the future. I don't think they're anywhere near close to what
they have so much problems, and we're going to talk about the Rockets in another episode because we could talk about hours about their problems. I mean, I'm not going to write them off, but like there's a lot of fixing that needs to go in H-Town to even have that conversation.
Yeah.
Another team before we get out of here, I know this is probably one of our longest episodes, but Orlando. How do you feel about the Magic? I would say resounding no, only because of the fact that I think the Thunder have found their head coach of the future, while the Magic have not. I'm way more confident in Daigneault and his development, like his player development capabilities than Jamal Mosley at this point in time.
Okay, that's interesting. I like Mosley. I think I love Orlando's young core because I think they have 2 legit probably going to be top 20 players like within the next 3 years. And I think that enough is that's pretty good. That's going to get you there. It's just for me, it's like the guys after that I'm not super in love with. I don't really consider Wendell Carter a part of this young core anymore. And then after that, it's just to me a lot of uncertainty with the guards. Bol is fine, but I
think they're not in the Scoot race really, but they need Scoot if they
here's what I'll say. I think after this year's draft, I think that's when we're gonna really see who the best young core is. Because if the
if the Pistons get Wemby, they're right.
It might be them, right? Because you have Cade and you have Ivy, and that's 3 guys. Duran, that's 4 guys who could be all-stars. Then if the Magic land Wemby, then all of a sudden you have 3 guys who could be top 20 players and 2 who could be top 10. I think this year's draft will really determine who have the best young nucleus in the league. But I think right now I would go Grizzlies, then Thunder, and then everyone else.
Yeah, but with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode of The Point of Attack. We went a lot longer than we expected, but it was obviously a great discussion and one we enjoyed having about the Oklahoma City Thunder, about the young teams in the league, and overall about the playing picture as a whole, because things are starting to heat up in the Western Conference. But to everyone who's about to tune in, thank you guys for tuning in. This was a great episode. Thomas, as always, was fantastic, and we will catch you guys next week. So until then, stay tuned.